Ladies and gentlemen, prepare to have your socks rocked off because we have found a Tigatron in the wild. But before we show you the drastic differences and somewhat improved differences that he has over Cheetor, I want to let you guys know about a video that we're putting up on our twin channel, and we're actually calling it Bone Breaker because it's been a while since we showed that channel a little bit of love, and hopefully that video will give it a little bit of life, which is interesting considering what we're reviewing. But enough of that, Dr. McCoy, because let's get back to the cat. And one thing that you guys may have picked up on is that all three of these guys have guns sticking out from their underside. Now, for Cheetor, this was actually a third-party upgrade, and the gut gun was actually implemented into the figure itself along with the other rifle that they just plugged into the bottom of his deal. Now, for Tigertron, they actually upgraded him and included a gut gun. However, instead of incorporating it like the third-party guys did, they just actually remolded this area and said, just plunk it on the bottom. Like in the instructions, it shows just sticking this here, which is really kind of lazy. However, this guy over here actually had his gun sticking out, although it was probably implemented better than both of these guys together. So there is that. So in looking at a comparison between the original and the new guy, this guy, just to let you know, the American release was always this kind of weird yellowish cream color. And while the new Tigatron is actually doing a much better job of showing what a real tiger would look like, he still has what I'm guessing is the Kingdom equivalent to Siege's battle damage. Now, he was in the series, you know, going through the jungle and the dirt and stuff, and I'm sure that a real animal would get dirty. But for like our newest version of Tigertron, why include that? Like, this was your chance to correct your mistake all those years ago of releasing this guy like this, and you don't do it. Although, to be honest guys, they may be just waiting for a premium release version of Tigertron where you won't have that, so I see what Hasbro's doing there. Now, we did say that Tigertron actually has a lot of improvements over the Cheetor mold, and to be honest, I'm not lying to you guys. A lot of the engineering, it's like the parts in the computer were blown up and enlarged, but then they're like, how can we improve on this? Now, one of those small things is he does have the legs like Cheetor, but what happens is, if you notice these pieces right here, they actually fill out the front part of the cat leg, whereas on Cheetor, you just have the exposed robot mode feet. And so you can kind of see that there is a little bit of a size difference, which that is accurate to the show. Now, one other difference that I wanted to show you is actually the tails. His tail does become a weapon like Cheetor's, but it is different, which is kind of interesting. However, for the more accurate beast modes that they wanted to go for in Kingdom, I gotta give it to him. It's actually pretty good. So here is Tigatron with his Maximal homies, and I gotta say that it is so nice to have Tigatron as he now completes that entire first season cast, at least for the Maximals. While some of them are not necessarily the best, I have to say Tigatron is actually among the better ones. However, without a further ado, Tigatron, why don't you lead us into our next segment?
Tigertron, Maximal!
Here's our boy rocking his robot mode. And I do have to say, he looks really good, except for the obligatory tail weapon, which, especially with that dirty detailing like we were talking about before, especially with how the majority of his robot mode is clean, much better. Now, to compare him with Cheetor, let's get a lot of the differences out of the way. Starting at actually the feet. Now you can see that on Cheetor, the peg hole or the combat port was there. This piece, as you can see, is now a completely different one where you flip it out. Then moving up to the back of the legs, whereas Cheetor had just these big empty holes, we talked about those panels. It's nice that they cover it in Tiger mode, but as you can see on Robot mode, they don't really do anything except kind of emphasize the giant gap on the back of his leg here. And then we go around to the front, which, as you can see, the crotch piece has been lengthened on Tigatron. But one thing that I did want to mention is on Cheetor, he always had the little bits of his beast gunk covering the backs of his hands. Well, as you can see, his actual hands are now free of gunk. He actually has a wrist swivel, which love that. Much like the beast mode was giantly remolded for these pieces, whenever I move the arm back, you can see that it detaches because this piece and this piece are so tight that they actually rub up against each other when you're doing transformation. And I mean, it's the same for the other sides. So the waist pieces do have a tendency to kind of come unhinged. So if you're moving the arms and you don't want that to happen, you kind of have to hold them in, which minor nitpick. Now, the one thing that is outstanding is that head sculpt, because it's always kind of weird how Tigertron has had this kind of more flat nose, and I always thought, okay, maybe is that kind of referencing how the tigers kind of have a more flat, broad nose, and it's just reflected in his robot mode. But whatever the case is, he is awesome, and plus when I look at this face sculpt, I hear the voice actor.
Once again, this planet pays the price for our war. But as long as there are Predacons to harm this world, we Maximals must protect it.
So that's pretty sick. Now, in looking in comparison to his original figure, what's odd about this is due to the way that it was molded and some of the things that were painted, the color placement is completely wrong on the old guy. But it does help just further separate him from a figure that we've had about 20 years to improve on. And Tigertron is just outstanding. Oh, and Tigatron actually fills out the rest of the ranks pretty nicely. Now, some people question whether he was actually supposed to be bigger than Optimus Primal. However, there was an episode in Call of the Wild in which they're both standing in robot mode, and Tigertron does appear to be bigger than Optimus Primal. Now, personally, I don't care if Tigertron's bigger, because we both know that Rhinox and Dinobot were bigger than Optimus. It's not like any of these three are challenging. He still is the boss monkey, even though Tigertron probably would be a pretty cool leader. So, like I said earlier, I like how now that Tigertron's here, we have the full contingent of the Maximal forces. However, as you can see, these guys are a little bit imbalanced. However, well, we have found out Legacy is going to release those guys. It is nice. However, the hunt for them. As you know how I feel about each of those guys individually.
He tasks me. He tasks me, and I shall have him. I'll chase him round the moons of Nibia and round the Antares maelstrom and round perdition's flames before I give him up.
So I hope you guys enjoyed the look at the Tigatron video, and like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, eventually on the other channel we are going to have that Bone Breaker episode. We've got a whole bunch more videos coming out this year, so I look forward to where we're going to go with Legacy and everything else. So until next time, guys, I'll see you in another review.
Let the trails lead where they may. I will follow.